Over the course of this video, you should understand what information architecture is, understand the role of an information architect, understand how information architecture is implemented in digital collections, and recognise some of the problems surrounding the future of information architecture. Information architecture, or IA, is the organising and structuring of complex digital information spaces, typically on websites. It is a professional practice focused on solving the basic problems of accessing and using the vast amounts of information available today. It is about simplifying information and designing information spaces to help people find, understand, exchange and manage information and, therefore, stay on top of information in a world where information overload, unfamiliarity and complexity stands in the way of the user. Use of the term information, together with the term architecture, has been around since about 1964. An IBM research paper entitled Architecture of the IBM System 360 defines architecture as the conceptual structure and functional behavior distinguishing the organization of data flows and controls, logical design and physical implementation. Modern use of the term information architecture relating to the design of information goes back to the mid-1970s with Richard Saul Wurman's address at the American Institute of Architecture Conference in 1976. From the mid-1980s, AI seemingly went through a dormant period, during which the idea of information architecture as the design of complex or dynamically changing information seemed to be lost to a view much more akin to that of information systems. Articles written in those years mostly refer to IA as a tool for the design and creation of computer infrastructures and data layers, with a larger emphasis on the organizational and business aspects of the information networks. Information architecture came into its own from the late 1990s and early 2000s with the expansion of the web and the need to bring order and structure to web-based information. As 2000 became 2005, things were changing again. Users were entering the scene as producers, and technology was redrawing the boundaries of computing. Now new problems needed to be addressed, as information architecture was moving into new territories. What used to be appropriate for simple hypertext systems was no longer sufficient. Being connected on the move meant there was no certainty of the physical context in which a certain piece of information is produced, remediated or consumed, turning IA systems into a huge design challenge. Information architects are designers of information. They organize, structure, order, display, label and connect information with the goal of building clear, usable and inclusive sites. The key is to alter information in a way that enhances understanding. When making a sitemap, the information architect is documenting the skeleton of the site, how the pages are put together, how the content is categorized, and how they expect users to weave their way through it. When structuring a site, there are a few things the information architect should consider. The first step is understanding the content. Conducting an audit early in the project is an excellent way to scope the content and structural needs of a site and, by extension, scope of the project itself. Categorizing the content is the next step in structuring a site and will form the basis of the site map, the document that codifies that structure. In information architecture, wireframes serve as structural sketches of web pages to devise and iterate their functional design. The information architect should, at this stage, also consider the direct relationships to be documented between pages. A large part of organizing information online is organizing for findability and access. Navigation supports this access. The way people search for information depends on their confidence in what to look for and where they think they'll find the answer. As web workers, the question the architect needs to keep in mind is what must users already know in order to find what they're looking for. Taxonomies are used to identify terms and sort content on the site. A tagging system is often employed when specific content needs to appear in designated areas. Museums, libraries, and archives are broadening their programs beyond the physical institutions by providing digital collections online. In digital collections, objects are prepared and presented particularly for the web, and the ambition is to provide the entirety of a physical collection. To make these rich and comprehensive datasets accessible, an explore mode is increasingly offered, usually as an addition to a search mode. This should enable users to discover the collection without knowing details in advance. The 4 functional principles that support exploration in digital collections are view, movement, contextualization, and participation. Ideally, it is the information architecture that defines the service, clarifies the vision, determines content and functionality, specifies how users will find information, and maps how the services provided will change and grow over time, all dependent upon the needs of the users. Several research fields are concerned with creating software that is beneficial for people to use. It is important to recognize that user needs and capabilities vary by situation, and research into context-aware adaptive systems will better support these variations. This approach, however, puts more emphasis on the effectiveness and efficiency of specific tasks, and not as much on longer-term support for awareness and discovery. Furthermore, the complexity of user context continues increasingly to include not only physical context, but a pervasive digital, social context as well. This, then, introduces certain design challenges in information architecture. Balancing immediate use with awareness, choice overload and discovery, and the complexity of context. These can be remedied by A. Simplifying user interfaces to help guide users through a system. B. The personalization of a system can alter its behavior to adapt to changes in its environment. And C. Access to continuous streams of possibly relevant information may enable more opportunistic actions. The goal of context-aware adaptive systems is to improve certain aspects of a user's interaction while performing certain tasks. This can be done with the use of information architecture. Information architects make sense of what their clients want to build or create. They help clients envisage an interactive service and match that with the design image of that service. That is, how people will actually perceive it once it's built. The tools of the information architect allow them to articulate this model in ever-increasing detail and to continually test it with the audience to ensure that model and image are aligned. However, it is becoming more apparent that certain trends are pointing to the obsolescence of these tools. The most obvious trend, of course, being the rapid introduction of artificial intelligence. It would appear, though, that increased access to information and a heightened awareness surrounding the context of people and the world has made it necessary to redefine the practice of information architecture. It is a change from the design of hypertext, as in the interactive design of objects on a device or web page, to the design of hypercontext, as in the interaction of the objects we perceive in the world around us. Information architecture is becoming increasingly present in the world of archives, libraries, and museums as we move our physical collections online. As record keepers, we are information architects. We organize, categorize, and design information in a way that is accessible to the user. Our choices alter the presentation and flow of human knowledge. We control how people find, understand, and use information. Everyone is trying to navigate a digital world that is both mandatory and hostile, that craves our data but cares little for how it makes us feel. As record keepers and as information architects, we have the power to make this digital world an easier, more stable environment for every kind of user. It is important that we continue to reshape information architecture to support our changing needs.